Oh,
Okay, hello, and welcome to the broadcast, and welcome to everyone here and watching the replay and all of this. So, hello, Coach Katie.
Hello.
And so, we have decided, y'all, that today we are going to be discussing how to survive Halloween. So, I think it normally starts around this time. I'm looking at my calendar. So, we've got like 3 weeks basically until Halloween. That means probably 2 weeks before you start buying the candy that you're going to be handing out to trick-or-treaters. Or like the day before. Are you the day before buyer, Coach Katie?
I'm already at it. I already have the candy.
Last year, I didn't even think we were going to have trick-or-treaters last year at all. Of course, I buy all of the things. This is what you should not do. Don't buy the things that you love, because
that's
then
exactly
if you don't
what I
have
did.
trick-or-treaters, you're going to eat it. So, see, I'm dumb because that's what I do is I buy all the things that I love, and that's mainly Reese Cup things. So,
you and my son.
Reese Cup. But so, how can you survive Halloween if you are trying to stay on plan, like for your physique goals? So, my first thought is, it depends on where you are in your goals and basically in your life in general, because here's why. This is my thought. I have been on my physique goals and doing what I do for so long that it's easy for me to just have a few things and be done. And I'm good with that. Like, I don't feel the need to go insane on the Halloween candy. But I do know from years past, if I was overly restrictive and hungry and it was all there, it was nothing for me to eat 8 to 10 pieces of candy just right after the other, and not be able to stop myself. So I think that we want to just talk about, what can we do to survive Halloween? So what are your thoughts, Coach Katie?
My thoughts, yeah. So one, I did go out. I bought all the candy that I love the most. And I'll tell you why. Because when my tune changed around food, when I took like the hyper focus off of food and it like being bad or I can't have it or restricting or kind of like depriving myself from that fun, like it just changed. So if I haven't mentioned this before, or you haven't heard me say this, I'm a rebel tendency, which means like if there's rules, I intentionally, like my personality flaw, I break them, right? Like I don't like rules. I don't want people to tell me you can't do that, you can't have that, because my brain immediately goes, watch me, right? Which is great. It's been working really well for my goals, because if people tell me I just don't think women can lift that much, my brain goes, watch me. But it's one of those things that you have to learn how to work with what you've got. And you need to learn about yourself. And I think that was the turning point for me, because as soon as I decided, well, I can have that anytime I want. I have it sitting around the house. If I want it, fine, I can have a piece. The excessive amount that I was eating, like I was like you, I'd sit down at bad days, right? When I couldn't have something, that's what I went to, because I was already having a bad day and it was like, F it, right? And we just sit down, and mine's Tootsie Rolls. I know yours is Reese's. We say Reese's here in Iowa. You guys say Reese's. That's cool.
Well, I say Reese Cups. I don't know.
I think it's Reese's peanut butter cups. Reese's. Anyway.
Other thing.
Mine's Tootsie Rolls, and mine and it's seriously the big ones, like the big ones, the square ones that you literally can get from like the Lions Club that sells them, outside of like the building. Yeah.
You know why they're better? They're softer than the smaller ones. The smaller ones get too hard, and so they're not as good. I agree with that.
Yeah. So like I'll have them sitting around. It took a long time for me to be able to have things in the house that were kind of like my comfort foods. But over time, what I've found is if I have them in the house and, I give myself permission, if I really want one, if that's what I want, have it, it's been working for me. And so I've taken the focus really off of, you know, dieting or manipulating my food to the point of, you know, that's going to be the end all be all, which it will be. It is. But I don't like to let myself like have that opinion, so that I put my focus on the training, and then the food around my training goes to, well, if I'm going to spend that much energy, you know, in the gym, like I want it to be worth my time. I want to maximize the potential of that, because that stuff, I mean, I like it and then I hate it, right? Like if you're going to grind out a whole bunch of stuff or you're going to sweat your tail off, you don't want it to just be all for naught. So a lot of times my food choices improve because of what I'm doing for that 30, 45, 60 minutes a day. So I would say it's a mindset thing, you know, for
Well,
me.
I think that's why it's just really important to know where you are
Mm-hmm.
in your mindset, because there aren't good food, bad food. When you have in your mind that you cannot have something, then that's all you're going to think about.
Yes.
You know, and I don't even think technically I'm not a rebel personality. Although growing up, I really feel like I was just a rebel in general, because everything I was told not to do as a teenager, I was determined to do. So there's still that tendency there.
Yeah.
But I think you have to know where you are, because, you know, if somebody's at the beginning of their journey and there are really trigger foods for them, you know, then they say, clean all of the junk out of your house.
Yeah.
Don't even have it there, right? Well, like, there's a time that you will get past that, right? And there are not good and bad foods anymore. And Halloween candy is not going to like set you off on a binge, right? But there are times, if you are just starting out and you know you have those triggers, don't have it there, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
like, then if you're at that point, I would not buy the Halloween candy that is your favorite, because you know you're at the point where you're not going to be able to control it. But after a given amount of time, when you can separate yourself from this good and bad mentality and know that food is just food and you can have some things, then it's a whole lot easier to be around it and it not be a trigger anymore for you. But it takes a while to get there.
I like that, because I think so. My brain goes, you know, it's the same thing that happens in the gym when you're kind of like going through exercise progressions, right? So like when you train people and they can't back squat yet with the barbell, there's progressions to get them there, right? Just like in a meal, you know, or a nutrition standpoint, if you can't have that sitting on your counter and have that positive mindset around it, and trust yourself, you haven't built up that self-trust, you've got to progress yourself to it. That doesn't mean that you're always going to stay in the, no, I can't have that in the house situation. That doesn't mean that you're always going to stay in that, like, I'm going to have to like portion out some of what I've got at the table when I go out to eat and to have them put the rest in a box. You aren't going to be there forever, but those are tools to help you sort of build out and fill out that self-trust strength, right? Like that progression to the lifestyle that you want. And I think sometimes we skip over that, or we get stuck in one area of that and it's not fun, or we think that, you know, we're missing out, or, you know, we're not doing life like everybody else or what it's supposed to look like. So we just give up on it instead of moving through the progressions. Just like when somebody's, you know, stuck box squatting, or, you know, doing any sort of progression before the back squat and that's not programmed in yet, they think they should be doing the back squat or it doesn't count, and that's totally not true. So
Yeah, and I think it's about the you know, allowing yourself time to get to that point, because just like in a workout, you're not going to be all the way up here at the beginning. Just like you were talking about, if you can't do a back squat, we may start with something as simple as sitting down in a chair and standing back up with your
yeah,
feet positioned in the right place, right? But and you're not going to beat yourself up because you're not all the way up here right now. But I think people beat themselves up more about not being able to control their food choices, and they think they're never going to move out of the spot that they're in, but you can. And so just, you've got to understand that it takes time to get there, right? So like this Halloween, maybe you are not at that place where you can buy your favorite candy and keep it in the house, okay? But if you work on, your mindset and your mentality of how you're viewing food, I guarantee by next Halloween, you probably be fine with it. But I think everybody just wants the immediate fix. Whatever they're struggling with right now, they want gone. They're not willing to like put in the time and the effort, just like with your workouts, food, all of it. You have to be consistent. You have to allow that time for progress and for change to happen. Change does not just happen immediately. You've got to build up to that.
Right. So I think the easiest way is we know what we should do, and sometimes I think we miss the ball here as coaches is saying like, okay, here's what I would do, right? So like for you, you're in that point, you're in that now, right? But you were at that place where you would sit down and have, a whole bowl, we'll say, right? Like you could sit down with the bowl and enjoy yourself, and right, like I'd get lost in it. I have the kids come home, like I've got 5 kids. When they come home from trick-or-treating, there's a shit ton of candy to pick from.
Okay, so here's what I used to do when both of my kids, they don't trick or treat now. Well, I think Carter didn't go last year. But anyway, they were a little bit old by the time they quit. But when they were both small and they both went at the same time, it was nothing. So like when they come home, see, my mom used to make us pour out the candy when I was little so she could go through it and make sure there wasn't stuff like unwrapped or like stuff that we couldn't have. So like for my oldest, he's allergic to nuts and like peanuts and stuff. So he can't eat the Reese cups at all. Like, so I had my kids dump all of their stuff out and then I would just like take the stuff that I wanted, right? So I always got all of Connor's stuff with peanut butter in it.
Okay, so
yeah. But so you probably got the jackpot on yours.
Yeah, so I'm not that nice of a mom. I actually wait till the next day because normally it's like the next day is usually a school day unless it falls on a weekend. But like I just wait for them to go to school the next day, and then I like seriously half the amount of candy that they have in there. So it's like this candy just disappears at like a faster than normal rate. And normally they don't pick up on it, but I do save it, They
don't remember what they had in the first place.
So like I empty a lot of the candy out right away because it's so much. And then at least they kind of end up saving it then, right? Like they kind of think about that too. Well, I want to have this kind of last a little bit. So then when there isn't any candy after like Valentine's Day, then we start to kind of bring it back out into circulation and that.
Yeah, you just gotta freeze it.
So,
it's the initial excitement anyway.
One year we sent it to the soldiers, and that was really cool. My kids thought that was awesome. So
it is.
Yeah.
Like seriously, most of the time kids get enough when they're trick-or-treating. They could have like a quarter of it and just pick out your favorites and give the rest away, like something like that, because it's the initial excitement that's the most fun. It's the actual act of trick-or-treating. You do that, you have the most fun, you really enjoy it for really the most just a couple of days anyway, and then you're just kind of done with it, know. And so kids, they don't miss it.
I would say they never have missed it. So but I was gonna say, what did you do to get from point A to point B? Like how did you go from that girl that was like would have those moments on the couch to like it really isn't an issue anymore, right? Like it wasn't an issue, because I think what we see is your day one picture, right, sitting on the couch, bucket full of candy, and your today picture, your before and after, but we never get to know what happened between, right? We don't get to see how long that took. We don't get to see the progress or, the progressions from one exercise to the next exercise to the next thing that you tried. How many times did you try something and it didn't work? So you like got rid of that. Like, what was that like?
Yeah. So I think that, it's all in the mind. It's really in the mind. So like you were talking about, like when you train, you're kind of more aware of what you're consuming, because like you don't want to put in all of this work and it to be wasted, like, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't I say this all the time, you cannot out-train a bad diet. So like you can't just do more and more activity to like burn off the Halloween candy and whatever. And I think what I eventually learned, so like whenever I did that all the time, like whenever I would just like eat like however, like too much, and it wasn't something ridiculous, and it was probably just like a one time at Halloween night or whatever. But I think what I realized is like, you don't feel good afterward. And like I focused more on like what did make me feel good, and it wasn't that. But I think that it's about the mindset of knowing that, and this is what I tell my clients this, and I tell myself this too, like, especially when I'm in competition prep, because like I don't eat certain things, even if I can fit them in, because I just don't. But I always say, y'all know food is always going to be there. Always. It will always, like, you are always going to have an event. You are always going to have a Christmas party. You are always going to have an office thing. You're always going to have stuff in the break room. You are always going to have food. So is it more important to like try to stay on track for your goals and allow yourself little bits and know that that's fine? Yes, it's better to do that. And I think I just eventually got that in my head. Like, it's not forbidden. Because if you say it's forbidden, you're going to do it, and you're usually going to do it in excess. And so, like, you just got to know that it's okay to have some. It's fine. You don't have to be perfect. It's about progress, not perfection, right? So, like, you just make changes over time and know in your mind that you can always go. They got daggone Reese cups for every holiday there ever was. You got pumpkins at Halloween. You got like you got hearts at Valentine's Day. You got special ones for Easter. It's like they're always gonna be there. And I'm telling y'all what, you enjoy things more when you don't have them as much.
Oh yeah, for sure, because they only come out with the Christmas tree little Debbie snacks at Christmas.
They're the best.
They're so the best. The white Christmas trees.
Do you know what makes them the best? And this is what I tell my kids all the time. The crunchy sugar on top.
Yes. The cookie cutter, the green sprinkles.
Yes, it's the sugar sprinkles. That's what. Because I'm like, I was trying to tell my son. I said, see, they need one of these